Hey there, Stephen Boudreaux here. Thought I might do a quick little tour of the setup I have here in my, call it Sunroom Studios. It's a studio setup in my sunroom. Not ideal, I know, but give you a quick tour and mostly just to set this up so that we can look at what inputs I have, what DAW I'm using, maybe cabling, preamps, whatever. I don't have a lot going on, but I've been asking some questions online about, you know, having some trouble with getting audio output, doing mostly drum tracking, but also some like karaoke level vocal tracks and things like that. So I am going to turn things around here, and we're going to eyeball things where they stand, where they set up. So here goes this. All right, we'll just kind of start from sort of the start, where things are. This is the studio room. Let me widen that out a little bit if it'll let me. There we go. So this is the kit, Mapex Orion, traditional maple kit. Bought part of it from Greg Bissonette back in 1996. Selection of snare drums over there, brag wall up there, camera, which is a Zoom Q2N video camera that comes up from the top. You'll see in some of the videos. Just kind of basic standard 5-piece setup. And over here, little side Canon camera for the side view. That's what most of these lately these videos have been, that. So over here to the console, we'll get sat down here. Here we have the laptop set up here. It's an HP Bang & Olufsen model, kind of a media laptop for the most part. 2 terabyte. No, this is actually a 5 terabyte external hard drive. No big deal. Music stand with some charts and things like that up here. The software is StudioOne Artist version. So we have that with all of its plugin. We'll get back to that here in a little bit when we talk about how it can get things set up the way they're supposed to sound. So here's the input devices here. Just a power conditioner up here. The primary interface is a PreSonus Studio 1824C. It's a USB version of that, 8 channels, and then a Behringer extender, another 8 channels. So that's 16 total channels, suggested to me by Eric Matthews over at Sweetwater, also of Fort Smith. Also got this little head amp, which is a headphone amp. If we've got guys here in my little studio, we can have them, have their own little headphone volume mixes. I do have the Fire Studio PreSonus FireWire version, so there's an additional 16 channels if we wanted to get that interfaced in there, but I don't ever use that. 16 is plenty for me for what I'm doing. Right now I've got, actually let's go over here to there here. So I got kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, rack 1, rack 2, floor, overhead, and of course there's room for rototom 1, 2, and 3 if we have that, and then vocals. So rototoms are over there. So I don't ever have them hooked up unless I'm doing like a police cover tune. So I do have the splash cymbals that are up there for now. So as far as mics are concerned, I'm not too fancy on mics, but I do like these little Sennheisers that you guys all know, these E models here. There's one on each of those. For the hi-hat, I have a condenser mic here, a JSO, I don't know what that is, but overheads are Rude condenser mics. Kick drum in is a Beta 52, and the kick drum out is a AKG D112. So that's what I've got set up here. So let's move on to what we have set up here. I don't have any preamps. I don't have anything cool. It's just is what it is that I have here. All right, so the first thing I generally will do is go to grab the files that I already have for these karaoke track things from a place called karaoketracks.com, and I will drag them into the session in StudioOne. Once we have those files in there in StudioOne, this is what they look like. And generally, I'll have a click track and the vocal track, and they'll have like guitars and bass and or keyboards or whatever. They'll have those in there, and I can separate those out of the karaoke.com or karaokeversion.com. Allows you to separate those tracks into separate stems. So I don't need the vocal track, or I don't need the drum track by itself, but I'll just leave those in there for reference. And when I get to the point where it's ready to do my version of the drum tracks, I'll just leave the click and the scratch vocal and the bass and guitar. So in this particular one, for When the World is Running Down, the best of what's still around, this is what it sounded like originally from the karaokeversion.com. And sounds pretty good, considering it's just it's a rebuilt track. And then this is what the vocal sounded like from the guy that put the track together. Turn on my VCR, same one I've had for years. He must be from like the Czech Republic or someplace like that. He's got a really pretty thick accent, which is what kind of encouraged me to sing the vocal. I didn't really think I could try to sing the vocal on this one, but after hearing that, I thought, well, let's give it a shot and see what happens. Thought it turned out okay, considering, and we'll get to that later. But really, this is more about finding out what is going on with the output of these audio tracks, so that we can kind of dig into, why they're feeling squashed out, or why they're feeling a little distorted, maybe to some degree. So let's move on and see what it looks like. Going down each of the track listings. So in this particular session, I have, of course, like I mentioned, the template kind of built, kind of a purpose-built template there. So what I'll do is I will have, use the StudioOne plugins, the standard stock plugins that they provide with the StudioOne artist. And so those are, pretty easy to track down. So for, kick in, I'll use the rock kick. Same for the kick out. I use the same plugin for both of them. They have compressors and EQs. Sometimes I'll add a reverb to that depending on the track, for taste. In The World is Running Down track by The Police, the original was pretty dry for the kick drum, so I took those off of there. For the snare drum, I'll use the rock snare version of that, and add reverb, add mixed verb to it. I kind of like it better than the room reverb for some reason. I just don't know how to use those tools all that well. Same for the snare bottom. It's got an expander. I have no idea what an expander does, but it's in there for that particular plugin. Hi-hat, standard stuff, rack 1, rack 2, floor tom. I'll just kind of set those to standard. I'll also, as you see, I'll pan them a little bit. So I've got it, from right to left as if, I was an audience member. So, for example, my hi-hat is on my right, but it's on the audience, my left, but it's on the audience's right. So I kind of have that panned right a little bit, plus 29. And then for rack 1, it's going to be on my left, but the audience is right. So I pan that a little further over, right plus 41, rock 2s in the center, floor tom left to the 38. Kind of gives you a spread when you do fills around. When the world is running down, you got the best of world still around, as no drum fills, no crashes. So there's not really any samples to use for that in this particular track that we're talking about. Overhead right, obviously, and overhead left. I got those panned a little bit. The rototoms, didn't use them in this one either, but also kind of pan right to left as well. And then, so vocal track, I'll use the male rock plug-in for that. And on this particular one, I always add at least a room reverb. I like room reverb better for vocals and not as much the mix verb plug-in. And then because it was Sting vocal, I feel like I had to do the best I could to cheat a little bit and add some delay and chorus in there. And I also I put 2 tracks down thinking I was going to have to also double track. In the double tracking, as you guys may, most of you smart engineer guys know, was kind of an original way to fake your way through auto correcting your vocals, which I need a lot of that of. I don't have auto tune. I don't know how to use it. I don't have a plug-in for it. So I have to do the best I can to try to cheat my way out of it. Double tracking is one way for this, but in this particular case, I did not double track. I muted the second vocal and just left it off because I thought that the chorus and the delay did the job to make it sound kind of cool. And I thought the vocal turned out okay. I didn't get too sharp or too flat at most times, but enough, obviously. Anyway, so moving on from there. So when we get into the outputs, this is where things get interesting, and I'm curious about how this is going to work. I have my inserts, just a standard, Pro EQ, and it's pretty flat. There's not much going on there, just a little bit of boost on the low end there, and maybe just a touch on the high end. The gain is auto set, so there shouldn't be anything funky there. I do have the limiter posted there, so even if you're popping it or just killing it on the snare drum, it's not gonna jump out. It does have a gain up, 4.68, so that's I don't know if that's overdriving it or not, but when we get right down to brass tacks, so to speak, it sounds pretty good in the tool itself. So I'm not sure what I'm missing here. So that when I do an export, like I said, it sounds pretty good coming out right out of that. So let me play a little bit from the track, with my drums and my vocal, and I'll play a little bit of that and see if we can see what it sounds like. Again, we're dumping it into a video editor, and then on and on. So there's that part. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's see what it sounds like. So as I mentioned, it sounds actually really good coming out of the digital workstation, and I've got my Alien Ears 16 ports aside IEMs that it sounds amazing in my ears. So something's getting lost along the way. Not sure what it is, but I think that the next step is once you have the WAV file built, and then you take it to your video editor. And then you get your video editor built and you dump the audio in there. And then once you've created the video clips and kind of cut them down and overlaid them over that audio track, then you export it out of the video editor. And I like to use Wondershare Filmora tool, which is I actually like that tool a lot. It's easy to use, pretty simple, but once you have it all built in there, then you go to export that, and it has its own settings as well. It has video settings. I'm not concerned about that so much, but the audio settings, it looks like it does have, the 44.1 or 48 kilohertz, which was what Sam was suggesting before, because that's, I guess, maxing out what an MP4 video file would deliver. So even if you're kicking it out of the digital workstation at 192, it's not going to do anything once you get it out of the video editor at 44. So it's going to squash things back down anyway. Doesn't matter how good a quality. My thought process was get it as high a quality as you can out of the workstation, then get over to the video editor, and it'll be the best it can be, and then it comes out of there at 44.1. So who knows what it's doing. And then obviously once you export it out of the video editor, then you have an MP4 file, then you upload that into YouTube, and then YouTube does its magic by squashing things down, making it quieter, and maybe even distorting it a little bit too. So it sounds pretty much the same in the video editor itself. And then once it gets to YouTube, I feel like it just sounds different to me. It sounds quieter and squashier and a little bit more distorted. So I don't know if that's the big thing or if I'm doing something wrong in my on my side on mixing and editing. So anyway, it's an exercise in futility, of course. I appreciate anybody that's listened this far into this. Every time I do a little karaoke recording, drum cover, vocal cover, I learn something new. So maybe by the time I'm too old to be doing this, I'll have it figured out. So thanks again. Y'all have a great day and happy Christmas.